Hello and welcome back. Business News now with Matthew Warren. Matt, thank you for joining us. The Greek bond swap deal, so it's been a success.
Yes, now after hours of rumours about this and wondering what's going to happen, about 50 minutes ago, we finally got the confirmation we've all been waiting for. The figure that we're hearing is that 85.8% of private bondholders have said they are prepared to accept this bond swap. If we just take a step back, what's this all about? It's all about Greece looking at its 350 billion euro debt pile and saying we need to cut. They want to cut 100 billion euros through this bond swap deal, which effectively is asking these private bondholders to take a 75% haircut, this famous haircut on the bonds that they own. But that has been successful. We finally had the figures confirmed that it's 85.8%.
So what happens next now?
Well, now what happens is there's a little bit more that needs to be done because about 2 weeks ago, the Greek Parliament passed legislation called collective action clauses. Now, what these are designed to do is if a significant number of bondholders voluntarily accept the deal, as has happened, for those bonds bought under Greek law, the Parliament can effectively force the rest of the bondholders to take the deal as well. Now, what that does is it pushes it up to 95.7%, so you're almost at 100%. Not quite there because there are some bonds that were bought under international law, so the Greek law doesn't apply to them. They will be able to do what they like, hold out if they want to, and that's where future problems are going to come. But for now, the good news in Athens, the good news around Europe indeed and around the world is that this deal has gone through.
I think there's a sigh of relief all around, really. What about the markets? How are they reacting?
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see today how the markets react to that. We can still see what's happening over in Asia, of course. Markets there all up in positive territory this morning, and of course this Greek news will now flow through. We also got news about the Chinese inflation rate, and that's fallen to a 20-month low. That's because food prices have eased. It was down at 3.2% in February, and that was down from 4.5% the month before. China's got an inflation target of about 4%. We can also look at US markets. Of course, those are all closed. They'll react to Greece later, but they were all in positive territory. Good news on jobless claims yesterday. They were down at these are the weekly jobless claim figures, 362,000. Sounds like a lot, but actually that's across a 4-week period. That's the lowest that it's been for about 4 years. There'll be more there'll be more news on jobs today as well, which will be eagerly awaited by the markets, as well as all of this Greek news.
Okay, well, thanks, Matt. Just moving on to some other news now. 1 year ago, an earthquake off Japan caused thousands of deaths and destruction. Well, the region's businesses were also severely hit, and the devastation has had lasting effects on the region's economy. Well, we're now joined by Hiromichi Shirakawa, who's chief economist for Credit Suisse Japan and head of the Economics Research Department. Thank you for joining us. What have been the main effects on Japanese business of the Fukushima disaster?
Well, I think there are two effects on Japan. One is the effect on, or the impact on the region damaged by quake and tsunamis. And that is, of course, the remaining difficulties by many small firms which operated there. And they are now struggling for restarting the business, including agriculture. And second, of course, impact is on the nationwide impact. And I think the nation is still suffering the shortage of power. Or I would say that too much reliance on the firepower generation because of nuclear power plants shut down.
Well, as you say there, the nuclear power shutdown is still going on pretty much. And Japan recorded its largest current account deficit in January, largely because of that. How much pressure is there now to reopen those nuclear reactors?
Well, I think the many economists and the policy makers have suggested or have argued that at least some of the nuclear reactors should start operating in order to ease pressure on Japanese external balance. But I think in the political situation, I don't think the momentum for restarting the nuclear power plants is gathering. And this is mainly because of the significant resistance from the residents living around the reactors. So I think it will take time.
Now, the economy shrank by less than expected in the fourth quarter of 2011. What's the outlook looking like for Japan in 2012?
Well, I think the good thing is that Japanese manufacturers have, I think, got out of the so-called supply chain disruptions caused by Thailand flooding in the last quarter, and actually, they're start to, produce more goods, in particular in the area of, the passenger cars. So I would see a pickup in industrial production into spring at least, or possibly even into the middle of the year. So the economy will enjoy pickup in production, pickup in exports, and that should, of course, they have some positive implications or ramifications on employment. So I think the first half of the year, I would see a pickup in Japanese economy, but the second half of the year, still, not that bright. Possibly global economic slowdown again. Also, Japan will need to, raise the tax into next year, and I think the people's mindset may start to weaken in the second half of the year.
Well, thank you for joining us, Hiramichi Shirakawa. Right, let's pick up on a few more of the day's business stories. Apple and 5 publishers will be sued over allegations they colluded to raise the price of electronic books. The US Justice Department's looking into how Apple changed the way publishers charged for ebooks in 2010 when it was preparing the launch of the iPad. News Corp, Lagardère and Pearson are among the publishers facing charges.
And News Corp is under pressure on another front as the scandal engulfing Rupert Murdoch's newspaper empire in the UK spreads to his broadcasting interests. The Financial Times reports that the UK's communications regulator is looking at whether BSkyB is a fit and proper owner of a broadcasting licence. Murdoch's News Corp holds a 39.1% share in the company, and a negative ruling would force the company to cut significantly its shareholding.
And convicted US businessman Alan Stanford could have $330 million worth of assets seized, a jury has ruled. On Tuesday, Stanford was found guilty of stealing $7 billion from his customers as part of the biggest Ponzi scheme since Bernie Madoff. Officials can now target 29 accounts in Switzerland, Britain and Canada to recoup the funds. Stanford is due to be sentenced in June. That wraps the business news for you. Lorna Shattuck is back in 2 minutes.